In the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you.
Great, we have banter now.
Ask what you can do for your country.
All the banter we could possibly want. See you, Taylor. We'll go ahead and kick things off. Welcome to Doomed to Fail, the podcast where we cover two stories, one historical, one true crime about relationships that were doomed to fail. I am Fars today. You are Taylor.
I continue to be.
Wow, I nailed it this time. Messed it up last week.
Loved it.
How's your weekend been, Taylor?
It's been nice. This is our last weekend of no plans before soccer starts and then school starts and then I don't know, stuff to do forever. So yeah, but
Chaos
good.
begins.
Chaos. Drinking some water. Our town has like a really cute summer concert series and it's on a field that is somehow grass, and like the kids will like pull up the grass and I'll be like, this grass is a miracle. It is 105 outside. I can't believe there's grass here. Like, do not pull up this grass. It's unbelievable that it's here. But on the grass it's cooler and then the sun goes down. And last night it was a group called the Hodads, which were some old men singing rock songs, and it was delightful. So
that's lovely. Is it real grass?
Yeah. Like, it's a miracle. I know. So, yeah, it was super cute. So we did that, and it's just so cute. Like, there's tons of like people we know, and there's like a lot of old people dancing, which is super cute. And then the kids just like go play. So it's like on a field, and they're like, "Can we go play?" And we're like, "Go!" It's like every 10 minutes we'll be like, "Do you see them?" I'm like, "Yeah, I see them. Do you see them?" "Yeah, I see them." Like, they're just playing with their friends, and it's a very small town cute. So
That is awesome.
yeah,
Small town vibes.
yeah.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
My weekend has been pretty uneventful, and I kind of like it that way.
Yeah, it's nice to have one.
It feels like everything is so scheduled now, and the obligations just keep racking up. It's like you got to do this at this time, then this time, then this time, then this time. And this weekend was just easy breezy. And today's going to be
Nice.
easy breezy, and I'm really, really excited about it.
I love it. Good for you. Yeah, same. I wore my pajamas like Friday night all through Saturday, and then I put them in the wash and I put them back on. So I'm great.
I did watch Oppenheimer. Have you seen it? You said you saw it, right?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, I'm gonna posit an unpopular opinion that people can write to doomtofailpod@gmail.com to express how they feel about it. I didn't think that was that good.
Really? I don't know. I also, I mean, like, I want to. I retweeted or re-Instagram or something. Like, there's a whole story of like how they kicked a bunch of people off their land to build in Los Alamos. It wasn't just like a nothing town. So all that I know they don't talk about. I did see like a funny thing on Instagram where it was like Oppenheimer in 45 seconds, and he was like, it was a woman like dressing like him, and she was like, "I'm a sad genius boy," and that was like most of it. Which I
Like,
feel
that
like
was really
is
it.
what
Like,
it
it
was.
was, so it was well made, but it was I don't know. Like, Cillian Murphy is obviously a really great actor, and he did a really
Yeah,
great job of basically portraying a sad boy genius. But it was basically just that
exactly.
sad
Yeah,
boy genius, and it was
that's
just like,
true.
oh God. I mean, I'm sure that's a realistic part. I mean, I've never read American
Right.
Prometheus. I'm sure it's accurate, but it's just like, God, can somebody hit somebody or do something? I don't know, like just, just like
I
over and
know.
over again,
Well,
just depression.
my father-in-law was reading American Prometheus, and we were talking about it a little bit. I haven't read it yet either, but I do love that I learned about Prometheus because Mary Shelley called Frankenstein the modern Prometheus,
That's right.
because it's when you give humanity something that they may or may not deserve, you know?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So
Don't let
yeah,
my
it's fun.
judgment taint it. Once you watch it, let me know what you think. But I
And I
totally
still
can
think you should see
see.
Barbie and let me know what you think, but I will definitely see it eventually.
I saw a thing that said that Barbie outdid. So Oppenheimer was at 300 million and Barbie's at 700 million, and I was like, wow, that's a crazy disparity. But then after I watched Oppenheimer, I was like, yeah, because nobody wants to go pay money to be depressed.
Exactly. Like, if you're like, I can go to one movie, you're gonna go to, like, I'm gonna go to the fun one. And like, yes, I cried during Barbie, but it was about the patriarchy. Like, Barbie's obviously, hopefully, way more fun than Oppenheimer.
It has to be. It
You
can't
know?
be less. Yeah, that's not a
Yeah.
movie I'm ever gonna rewatch. But I mean, I'm glad I saw it, but I don't need to re-see it. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
That makes sense.
but
I'll watch it. I'll watch it again or sometime.
it played a role in my topic for today, sort
Oh,
of.
nice.
But let's
Nice.
dive into it. So today I go first, right?
Right. So I want to bring us back to being like a themed cocktail. And I didn't make this cocktail because I need a special bowl and more friends. But my cocktail is like a volcano that you get in like Hawaii, where it's like a big bowl with like fire in the middle and like a bunch of like rum and juice around it. And you drink it with friends and straws. I feel like it's not a DIY cocktail. I can't do it at
Well,
home. I have to like go to a restaurant. I think we've talked about cocktails that involve fire before, and we've advised against them at your house.
so when you come to Austin next, there's I told you about a place I want to take you to called the Roosevelt Room because it's Roosevelt and
Hmm.
all that. And they do old-timey cocktails. It's all about like prohibition era cocktails. And one of the cocktails
I
they
love it.
make, they put like this giant open skull, like it's a skull and the top's cut off, and then they basically turn it into that. And it's
That's
awesome.
what I'm thinking of. That's the vibe I got today. So
Okay.
we'll do that. I'll take pictures when we do it together. It sounds
Lovely.
awesome.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So my drink today, I'm gonna improvise and make it up on the spot. I'm gonna call it a martini, a dirty
Okay.
martini. We'll do a dirty
Okay.
martini
Did you
because
just invent a dirty martini, or are you just that's what you just picked?
I'm the creator of a dirty martini.
I read a gross New York Times article about martinis, and then they're like, oh, they're all different kinds now, like, which is cool. Like I like a different kind of martini, but there was one that was chicken soup and it had like chicken broth in it, and that made me want to die.
That sounds terrible. That is
All
not
you
my
need is gin and
invention.
olives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Continue. Okay.
And the reason
Cool.
I'm doing that is, well, let me get into it, and you'll see why. So, like I said, I watched Oppenheimer, and it got me into this whole headspace of thinking about large scale conspiracies and stuff that's going on that government wise that we're not totally aware of. And
Yay.
it led me down this weird path, and somehow I landed on this article written by a guy named J.J. Green. It's called City of Secrets about Washington D.C. And
Mhm.
in it, they talk about how, as of now, like today, the general consensus amongst intelligence officials is that there are approximately 10,000 foreign spies living and operating in Washington, D.C. right now.
What?
It's crazy, right?
That's a
And
lot.
and it made me think, is there a doomed to fail story about like spycraft in here? Because it just seems like a really fun topic. And there is.
Fun.
Spoiler alert, there is a story in here. And that's why I thought about the martini, because I was just like, it's such a like old timey drink that like you drink while you're like
Spying on
selling
people.
secrets and like doing stuff
Yeah.
that's shady, and you go home and there's a lot of martini drinking in Oppenheimer too. So spoiler
Makes
alert on
sense.
that.
They're
I wa-
delicious.
I watched a docuseries on Netflix. It's currently on Netflix called Spycraft, and
Mm.
I think the motivations for people to spy on their own country is kind of the doom to fail part that I honed in on. And in Spycraft, they talk about this acronym called MICE, which
Hmm.
stands for money, ideology, compromise, and ego. And
Hmm.
my take on it was that's the part. Like, if you're somebody where you're in a position of doing or having access to information and you develop a relationship with the MICE acronyms in a negative way,
Hmm.
then you are destined to do horrible things and get caught for it and suffer horrible punishments, is what I think.
Did they mention the Rosenbergs in Oppenheimer? Was there like a Rosenberg, like her brother, like secretly stealing stuff? Did they
I
get to
don't
that
think
like
so.
Soviet connections and things?
I don't know. Well, yeah, they definitely got a Soviet connection. They might have
Right,
mentioned
because they,
them in passing, but like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
mostly
I
it
bet
had
there's
to
someone who
do.
was like them in the background, you know?
Yeah, mostly it had to do with like Oppenheimer Soviet connections more than
Hmm.
anything else.
Right.
Because I mean you listen to the podcast, so like the Manhattan Project one, so you know all the details there.
Yeah, yeah.
And anyways, so it's worth noting that when we talk about like espionage, it sounds all sexy and James Bondy,
Sounds so
but
fun. Yeah.
there's like some heavy duty consequences to what these people ended up doing.
Hmm.
I mean, you just mentioned it. You covered one of the most famous espionage stories of all time, which also coincides with Oppenheimer, as you just mentioned, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. But I looked up other spies and what they did, and I'm going to hone in on one specifically. But I want to do a little brief listing of the other top contenders for worst spies in U.S. history. This is an article called 11 Spies Who Did the Most Damage to the U.S. Military by David Nye. I'm just going to list them. I'm not going to read off everything. So one is Nashir Gawaldi. This guy worked on the B-2 bomber, commonly known as the stealth bomber. He received 32 years for selling knowledge of this technology to China. There's Chai Mak. We don't know exactly what this guy did because the nature of the technology he worked on was so secret, but he ended up getting
Hmm.
24 years, and the assumption that is that it had something to do with how naval ship engines are designed.
Hmm.
There's Anna Montez. She worked for 17 years, so she provided a pretty wide range of strategic secrets to Cuba and was ultimately captured and sentenced to 25 years. John Anthony Walker, this guy gave the Soviets info on the movement and activities of the U.S. naval fleet. And this is what I mean when I say that these people's actions have real world consequences. The information he gave led to the sinking of the USS Scorpion, where 99 crewmen were killed. He ended up getting
Wow.
life in prison. Larry Wu Chin, this guy was just a translator, but he weirdly gave that kind of gave him access to a lot of info that he really shouldn't have had for his pay grade. He passed info on interrogations from prisoners of war during the Korean War to China and ultimately committed suicide before sentencing. You have
Oof.
James Nicholson. This guy trained new officers at the CIA and provided info on all new trainees and officer assignments to Moscow. He got 25 years. The thing to note is what I'm saying, like, you provide information on these people, they die. like
Right.
when you hand a name over to someone, you know that you just basically signed their death warrant. So
Right.
that's why I say, like, real, like these people are unconscionable in terms of how bad they are as humans.
Hmm.
There's George Trofimov, who was a colonel in charge of a safe house where Soviet defectors were interviewed and debriefed. This guy would sell info to the KGB. He also got life. And the most famous would be Benedict Arnold. He sold out the U.S. during the Revolutionary War for approximately $3 million in today's money. He provided the British with plans to West Point and agreed to disarm its defenses for a British attack. Those
I
are
read
the top.
about, yeah, I have a book about Washington. I'm pointing to it. That they talk about the Benedict Arnold thing, and it really was like a you fucker, you know,
He
like
was a big deal. Like, he was a hero.
we
Like,
can't
he
believe
wasn't,
you did that. Yeah,
of
yeah,
all the people, it was like he was the
quite
one that was
fun.
like the least likely to have done that, essentially.
Yeah, you like never would have expected it.
So there are two more that I didn't list here, and they basically did the same thing, and their stories overlap in very, very significant ways. The one I'm going to actually be covering really today is going to be Robert Hanssen, but the other guy whose story overlaps directly with Robert Hanssen's story is a guy named Aldrich Ames. The key thing
Okay.
to remember here is that Ames and Hanssen overlapped in the years that they were spying on behalf of the KGB. It's also worth noting that Ames worked for the CIA while Hanssen worked for the FBI, and they mostly had access to the same information. The mostly part is the most important piece there.
Okay.
So this guy, Robert, was arguably the worst spy in US history. He did a
And by
lot
worst
of really
spy,
terrible shit.
you mean he's like great at being a spy?
He did it for a very long period of time. The show Spycraft mentions that 20% of U.S. spies are caught within the first 5 years. This guy was operating from 1979 to 2001.
Wow.
So and there was a reason why he was good at it. The reason why he was good at it was because he was trained and was supposed to be in charge of catching counter spies. So he knew what not to do
Right.
and what to do. And also, he wasn't super stupid the way that the Ames guy was. I'll explain how stupid that guy was here in a moment. So I'm gonna skip past like his life. It's pretty boring, mundane shit. The most relevant thing being he was married, he had 6 kids. That's all I'm gonna say about his personal life. It doesn't really matter that
But
much.
he's American.
He's American. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, born and raised.
Okay. Great.
So let's get started with this. So when Hansen was 32, he joined the FBI as a special agent. This would have been 1976, and obviously 1976, the Soviet Union was still a very real threat to the United States. China was expanding its global position as a communist superpower. Castro and the Soviet premier at the time, they just installed a communist leader in Angola. The world was basically on edge, and everybody was kind of waiting for death to come pouring down from up top. And so this was a
Yeah.
really sensitive time to be a part of the intelligence community. It was with this backdrop that Hansen joined the FBI. He bounced around from field offices from Indiana to New York to Washington D.C. and went from his special agent position, which basically means he just floated around, like he just did whatever investigations had to happen, and that was
Hmm.
kind of his role. His first attempt at espionage happened in 1979, so he was quick. Like, he was 3 years
Right.
after he started. He's like, I'm going to start spying. He, I should have wrote this down. I forgot what it was. So it's so weird, Taylor. The more you learn about this stuff, like there are businesses and operations right now that like are fronts for other governments to spy on things. So there was one building in New York, I can't remember the name of it. It sounded like a diamond exchange or something. I forgot exactly what it
Uh-huh.
was, but it was obviously not like an outwardly government official site. But in 1979, this guy Hansen knew that it was an actual government KGB operation. And he ended up approaching them saying, I'm willing to sell you information on counter spies on the KGB side of things for in exchange for $50,000. They said deal. They gave him $50,000, and he gave up the name of a guy named Dmitry Polikov. This guy was apparently very beloved within like the intelligence community because he didn't really want money. He literally was only doing this for ideology. He just didn't think that the Soviet way of living was the right way of living, and he like most of the time what he would exchange his information for was like fishing gear. Like he didn't want to get rich off this. He was trying to do what he thought was best for the
Hmm.
world. And he was also super high ranking. I think he was a general or a colonel. And so he gave up this guy's information in 1979. The guy was immediately caught and shot in the head. Like,
Wow.
yeah, it was like, that's what I'm saying. Like, these guys are handing out death sentences.
Um,
Go ahead, sorry.
I I love I hope that I mean, I don't know. Life is so boring. Like, I hope and exciting. And I hope that there are places like in like John Wick where like, you walk into like a tea shop and then like you press a button and there's like umbrella guns
Yeah.
and
I
guys
mean,
in
that's what this
suits.
kind of sounds like. Yeah.
That sounds like what I want to be happening because fuck, might as well.
Might as well. Uh, I couldn't find sources on this next bit of information outside of what that show Spycraft mentioned, but it was implied that Hanson's wife caught wind that he had done this and implored
Uh-huh.
him to stop, and that's why he did, because there's a huge gap in his espionage activity from 1979 until 1985. So there's a 6 year hiatus. He does it once, and apparently he stops. Again, the only source I have is some FBI agent that was talking about this on that show, and he said that the wife basically found out and told him to stop. That's all we know.
That's
All
fair.
this, yeah. All this would change again when he is transferred to Washington, D.C., and there he is given access to various FBI programs that focus a great deal on wiretapping and digital espionage. It seems like with the FBI, you kind of earn your stripes and work your way up to more sensitive areas of its operations. And apparently, Hansen was really good at the kind of work that he did, and he worked his way up to working at the Soviet Analytical Unit, whose sole directive was to identify, evaluate, and capture Soviet spies. So this is good info if you are
You
trying to sell information and you
oh,
are also a spy.
the call is coming from inside the house.
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
In 1985, Hansen reached out to the KGB and asked for $100,000 in exchange for information he could provide in his capacity of evaluating Soviet spies. And this is where our two stories kind of converge.
Okay, question.
Yes,
Did Robert Hansen want money or did he want to help the Soviet Union?
money.
Got it.
And it wasn't a lot. That's the thing we're going to get to here in a minute. Is like he did it for it was, I mean, it was a lot of money, but like not enough, in my
Right, for
opinion.
like people's lives that like were destroyed. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is the part where the stories of Hansen and Ames kind of start coming together.
Okay.
So in the letter Hansen provided the KGB, he provided three KGB double agents. So these are people that were employed by the KGB who were actually selling information to the US government. All three of these agents who were given up by Hansen earlier that year had also been given up by Aldrich Ames, and Hansen didn't know this. Like they didn't know each other. They were not friends. One was with the FBI, one was with the CIA. But this KGB looks at it and says, okay, so this is the second time these three are being called out. There's something to this. Two of the double agents were executed immediately, and the other served
Oh
a
my
six
God.
year term before being released. The reason those two were killed is A, they were more junior, and so they didn't really have much value to the KGB anyways, and it's Russia and it's an awful place to be and all that stuff. The other guy got 6 years only because the Soviet Union collapsed. So during he was sentenced to 15 years, but during the 15-year sentence, the Soviet Union collapses and the U.S. engages in this amnesty program with the new Russia, and they exchange this guy for their own people essentially. That's why he was released.
Hmm.
He lives in the U.S. now. He lives in California. So the way the government starts honing in on double agents is at least in part because of things like this, because these double agents all have handlers in the countries that they're cinching on. So people check in on them and they discuss what they're trying to do. And so these handlers start learning that their sources go missing. They report them. And then the government says, okay, why are these people going missing? Like, what's the overlap here?
Hmm.
The fact that Ames was operating and doing the exact same shit as Hanssen was just pure dumb luck for Hanssen. Again, Ames was with the CIA in 1985, which is the year Hanssen got the idea to start spying on the KGB. They were getting up the names of the double agents at the exact same time, and it was also the same names.
Right.
And obviously, all these guys are getting executed. So as Soviet assets are disappearing, these agencies start wondering, how could this be happening? Either the assets themselves were being careless, or there's a leak somewhere, or there's a mole. So we're going to be flipping back and forth on the storyline here between Ames and Hanssen. Going back to Hanssen, 2 years had passed since these two Soviet spies had disappeared. So the FBI recalls Hanssen to DC, and he is tasked with finding out who the mole is, giving these people love. This is incredible. This is literally Matt Damon's character from The Departed.
Wow.
He's asked to search for himself.
Wow. I
Well,
don't know, guys. It seems like maybe it was a woman. I'm gonna just look at all the women.
I know, right? So that's the interesting thing is like, in his mind, he's like, I'm looking for myself, but there's actually another mole in Ames that's out. It's so weird. It's like a movie.
Yeah.
During this time, he's putting together measures so that the trail never leads back to him. There's also a Soviet effort to obfuscate his identity. So there's a thing called a triple agent, which is,
Right.
let's say you get it, right?
I kind of get it. I feel like you wouldn't know what to do. Like, I feel like you'd like wake up and be like, "Who
Who
am
am I
I
today?
today? I can't remember." You know?
So so imagine if you're like a KGB agent that flips to the CIA. So you're giving KGB info to the CIA. Then the KGB finds out, and then they tell you, cool, tell them you're still with them, but you're actually with us. And now give
Right.
them counter information. That's what a
Oh my
triple
God, it's
agent does.
exhausting.
And a triple agent basically told the CIA that you should be looking for this guy in a CIA facility in Virginia, so far away from where Hanson's operating. So that's what they end up doing. They change their focus and start looking over there. Hanson
Did you do that
services,
to save Hansen
yeah,
or just okay?
yeah, because that's the thing. These guys all want these guys to stay operational because that's how they can collect
Right.
information. It's like one less guy you got to flip.
Another thing is like, what if there was like two other guys that we don't even never heard of?
There is always two other guys you've
Right?
never heard of. That is the most
Yeah.
consistent thing I researched in all this. Is that all these guys were fucking each other over. It's almost like there's no point to having.
Sheesh.
There's like no point in having these agencies because it's literally just like this like count. It's just billions of dollars spent to negate everybody else's other billions of dollars. That's all it really is.
It's so silly. Okay, yes.
So Hanson's service to the Soviet Union overlapped with the Soviet Union's eventual collapse. Obviously, when a government collapses, a lot of things go missing in the shuffle. Part of those things seem to have been Hanson's identity as a double agent for the KGB. So when the USSR collapsed, the largest, most active agency for intelligence gathering in Russia was the GRU, which is short for the Main Intelligence Directive, which obviously is a different acronym in Russian, but that's what it is short for.
Got it.
This is incredible. In 1992, Hansen approached the Russian embassy in person. He went to the parking lot and walked up to a GRU official and said, in essence, I'm Ramon Garcia, which is KGB code name.
Oh
He
my
said
God, so
that,
stupid.
yeah, he said, I'm an FBI agent, that he has classified material that he wants to share with the GRU in exchange for money. That guy drove over to the State Department and reported him. like, like
What
directly.
the fuck?
It's like nothing happened. So like I said, this happened in 1982. He didn't get caught until 2001. So
What?
there
Okay.
are so many of these. I'm actually going to list this out. So there's so many times when he should have gotten caught, they didn't get caught. Like
That's
he
so
was not.
stupid. Oh my God.
Every article you read on this guy talks about what a super genius spy he was. He was like, I don't know what a super genius spy looks like, but it can't be this because I'm going to read this
You can't be
list
walking up
off.
to the first guy in the parking lot and being like, "Hey, I'm a spy. Give me money." Like that can't be it. That can't be it.
Yeah.
Like
So
remember
he,
when
go
I
ahead.
lived in Queens and I had that terrible drug dealer on my street and he lived down my street and every day you'd walk by, he'd be like, "Psst, you want any drugs?" And I'd be like, I'm not a drug dealer, but like I feel like you're going about this the wrong way.
Just a little more discretion, please. Just for
Yeah.
your own sake,
Yeah.
not mine.
Yeah. Be like, no thanks, Anyway.
So here's a listing of all the things that he did outwardly that he should have thought better of. In 1988, he gave secret information to a Soviet defector during an interrogation. Obviously, that's a huge security breach. He was giving classified information. Like, this was an accident, but it just showed his lapse in judgment of like what he's supposed
Right.
to
He
talk
was
about,
like
what
in
he's not
our
supposed to.
house. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And people noticed this and were like, you shouldn't have said that. And they reported to the supervisor. Nothing happened. In 1989, a year later, the FBI started investigating a State Department official that's going to come up again later. His name is Felix Bloch, as a possible double agent. Hanssen told the KGB about this to help protect Bloch. So think about that. So he knows that this guy's under investigation. He doesn't want him to get caught. He tells his handlers, and then the handlers tell Bloch, and then Bloch stops doing secret shit and basically just disappears off the map. He's never convicted of anything. And later on, this guy gets arrested and says, Robert Hanssen's a spy. Like, he literally says that to the guys who arrest him. And nothing happens.
What?
In 1990, Hanssen's brother-in-law told the FBI that his sister-in-law had found a huge pile of cash in dressers in their house. The brother-in-law was also an FBI agent who was aware that the FBI was searching for a mole at the time. In 1993, Hanssen hacked into a colleague's computer and accessed classified material. He told his supervisor he did this to prove how insecure their systems were. In reality, he did it because he was searching for himself to see if he's under investigation without using his own
Right.
computer.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
That part he does again and again. In 1994, he is asked to join a new unit of the FBI, but was told he'd have to take a lie detector test to do so. After which he changed his mind. So there was another computer tampering incident. He blamed it on needing to use a color printer and having to bypass FBI security protocols to do it. And people were like, "What the fuck? You can't do." They impounded his computer. There was another incident where he actually used his own computer to do another search on his own name. There was an incident where an FBI double agent revealed that he was also a double agent, separate to the Bloch incident. And all of this gets reported to supervisors, and nobody does anything.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I think I read a book called The Kill Chain. Maybe I mentioned it before, but it's about the like chain of command and information sharing in the US military. But I feel like so many problems of the government could be resolved if they just had like a really good CRM.
Seriously,
You
that's
just
what they
need to like
keep
know
saying.
what people are doing.
That's what they keep saying about why there's not many serial killers now. Is if you could have just done Command F for a name for like
Yeah,
Bundy, Gacy, whatever else, you would have caught these guys immediately. Same
totally.
same story here. But it goes back to like the justification, not the justification, but it goes back to like why we think things like Oklahoma City ended up happening is because like these agencies have pride in like them being the ones finding the people and they don't want to share information and
Hmm.
details. So
Yeah, it's stupid.
so we're gonna flip back to Ames' story because we're at 1993 now, and in this case, the FBI and the CIA have actually joined forces to form a task force to figure out who the mole was. At this point, Ames had received 4.6 million from his work giving secrets to the USSR, and he was very flamboyant with throwing this money around. Like he very flamboyant. Like he drove like a nice car. There was one story I read where he had these like really premium level credit cards that had like monthly minimum spend requirements on them, and the monthly minimum spend requirements were more than his total monthly salary. Like it was like very
What?
flashy shit.
Nobody will know. Wait, hold on. What? Okay, FBI special agent salary. I just want to see. So if you're a special agent, it says 91 to 130 per year now.
Yeah,
Anyway,
so
so it's
picture
like,
what 1993. I think his salary in 1993 was 60,000,
yeah. So it's
and
like a relative. It's a good job, but it's not like a millionaire job.
he was driving a Jaguar. Like
Yeah,
he
it's
had
not a
he had
Jaguar job.
yeah, he had like tailored suits. They bought a five
Yeah,
hundred fifty thousand dollar house in '93. That's like fucking $7 million today.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I don't I can't do math, but like that's what I
No,
think.
100%. That's exactly right.
So here's what I'm going to say. Like the whole difference between Hansen and Ames is interesting. Ames was operating in this capacity for it would have been 9 years. It made $4.6 million.
Oh,
Hansen was operating from 79 to 2001 and in total made 1.4 million.
oh my God, dumb.
Like all these people were killed and died over 1.4 million over the span of whatever many years that is. What is that, 22 years?
Yeah.
Like what is that in a monthly
Wow.
basis? Hold on. 1 4 divided by 22. That's $63,000 a year. Which I guess in today's money would be a lot more, but like still, that's like not that much money.
Especially 'cause other people are getting so much more money. It's like when you talk about
Yeah.
your salary and you find out someone's making more money than you. Like that's what kind of what's going on.
Yeah,
They should
basically.
have had like a
Yeah.
meeting and been like, they should have had a union, and then they could have been
The,
like, we
the
all need to be paid
spies
well.
union. Yes. Like, these guys need to organize.
Ugh, for real.
So it was the flashing of the money everywhere that made everybody be like, how is this guy living this way? It's like, we know we have a mole. This
Oh,
guy
it's
is
so funny.
wearing Armani suits every day, driving his Jaguar to work. What's going on?
Oh
And
my God.
that's why they focus on Ames. So in 1994, the DOJ arrested Ames, and he was formally charged with espionage. So the government thought, we got him. We're good. Like we got our
Right.
guy.
This is the only guy,
This is
right?
it. We're done. And Ames and Hansen, because they knew the same people, they'd been fairly consistent with the overlap in terms of the information they'd been given. But there were two incidences that Ames could never have been responsible for that the government knew about. Ames was with the CIA. Hansen was with the FBI. That guy I mentioned earlier, Felix Bloch, he was under investigation by the FBI, so Ames wouldn't have known about him. In addition, in 1977, the Soviet Union began working on a new embassy in Washington, D.C. The FBI had dug a tunnel underneath it with the intent of listening in on conversations in the decoding room.
Cool.
Hansen had revealed this to the Soviet Union, and somehow the FBI learned about this. And they looked at that and was like, okay, all these people dying, got it. It could have been either one of it. It could have been Ames. But these two things could never have been him. He never would have known about these two things. So again, the FBI and the CIA come back together and they form the joint task force to figure out where this leak is coming from. They ended up paying about $7 million to a KGB double agent to provide them with information on a U.S. double agent, essentially. And he produced a file on one called named B. Like his nickname was just the letter B. The
Cool.
file contained an audio recording, which the investigating officer said he thought was familiar. Like the voice on it was really familiar, but he just couldn't place it. In the file, there were transcripts of the conversation had by B and his handler, which included a kind of troublesome phrase, which came from General Patton. The phrase was, quote, the purple pissing Japanese, which is not good. I don't know what that means,
Oh,
but it's
oh,
not good.
Patton.
Like I don't know how that's racist, but I'm positive it is.
100% is, yes.
And another FBI analyst investigating the case recalls that Hansen used that quote. Like you would say that phrase for some reason or another. And
Oh,
then,
that's how you get caught. It's like having your cake and eating it too.
yeah,
Eat your cake and have it
exactly.
too. Like if you have don't have a catchphrase if you're not trying to get caught, people are gonna know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh my
That
God,
for
this is 101 stuff, Hanson. You
just so
cannot do
everybody
that.
knows, we're referring to Ted Kaczynski because he used the wrong phrase to say that, and that's how he got caught. Well, his brother turned him in, but like that's how his brother figured out that it was him. Anyways, so this FBI analyst listened to this and heard this phrase and was like, "Hey, Hansen used that phrase." They re-listened to the tape and were like, "Yep, that's his voice. That's definitely Robert."
Yes.
There are parts of the story that almost feel like a Mel Brooks movie, and this is kind of one of them. So at this point, the FBI was sure that Hansen was the guy, and they decided to promote him. They gave him a new high-profile job in a new division within the FBI. They gave him an amazing corner office. It was just like making him feel like everything was going great, all that good stuff. And they also gave him an assistant. But this guy was actually another special agent who sole job was to find incriminating information on Hansen. This guy noticed that Hansen always carried around a personal Palm Pilot. Like he like clutched this thing. Like it was like there
Hmm.
was like a reason why he was so attached to this thing.
I remember those.
And he suspected that this is probably where he is he's using to save and transmit this classified information. And somehow, some way, Hansen leaves a Palm Pilot in like his suit jacket, goes somewhere. This guy decides this is my one chance, grabs the Palm Pilot, runs it down to the tech staff to do a download. They basically reverse encrypt whatever it, and then download the
Hmm.
content, and he's able to return it. The one note that they mentioned is that the guy forgot what pocket he took it out of, and he was like, "Shit, if I put this in the wrong pocket, this guy's gonna know the jig is up, and like he might just kill me because he has a gun because like he's an FBI agent."
I love that. I have a couple things to say. Kids, a Palm Pilot was like a notebook that you had in your hand that was digital, essentially. All you could do was like take notes on it and do a calendar. You couldn't like email. You couldn't even email people, could you? Whatever. Either way, old-fashioned phone. And I love that. That's so funny. Could you imagine being at work and not being able to trust fucking anyone?
It's
Like
so
right now, you're
crazy.
like, oh, I don't trust Forrest because I think he might be trying to like, take my job, but like not I don't trust Forrest because he might be an international Soviet spy trying to break down America and share nuclear secrets.
That's
Or
what I'm
like
saying.
maybe my assistant is whatever. Like at work, you just be like, everyone's a spy
So
in some way or another.
the thing is, like, it all interconnects. Like, there were like 15 other stories that segued off of the Robert Hansen story into like so many different people that like in the middle of trying to catch Robert Hansen, they caught like one or two other U.S. spies to the KGB. Like it was just like all this
Hmm.
people getting ensnared in this whole thing. It's just everybody's a snitch. Everybody's a rat. Everybody's trying to fuck their country over, apparently.
For real.
Anyways, this guy gets the Palm Pilot back in the right suit jacket. At this point, it didn't seem like Robert was like any wiser to like what was going on. It only seemed like a few days later where he was just like, man, people are being like weirdly nice to me and like super interested in what I'm up to. Like you just think that's when it started dawning on him that something might be going on. And it was February 18th of 2001. This is 5 weeks
Wow.
before his scheduled retirement. He performs his last dead drop. He goes to a park in Virginia, and his signal to his handler was he would leave a white piece of tape on a sign, and that would mean that there was something at the dead drop. So go check it. And
It wasn't,
then,
it's me, Robert Hansen. I left something here.
yeah,
It's me,
yeah,
Robert Hansen.
it was a little bit less more
Robert
discreet than
Hansen.
that.
I dropped this off here. It wasn't
And,
that. That wasn't his tell.
and no, but he would be kind of smart because what was it? He would add a six to every date. So like if he was gonna drop something off at like on January 1st at 1 p.m., he would write
Hmm.
it as July. Wait, July, May, June. No, he would write it as like June, you know, 7th or whatever. Like you know what I mean? Like he would just add a six to everything, and so
Hmm.
he would kind of encrypt his stuff a little bit and decode it, but not that great. So he takes a garbage bag full of classified information and duct tapes it underneath a footbridge in this park, and that's where the FBI saw him do it. They immediately came in and arrested him. And then they actually didn't take the bag away. They sat there for like, it would have been two
Yeah,
days. They sat there for two
makes
days waiting
sense.
for his handler to show up, and he never showed up. And then at that
Yeah,
point, they finally announced to the media that we caught this incredibly
I'm sure they were
huge.
watching.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And he would have gotten the death penalty, but he ended up taking a plea agreement. He pled guilty to 13 counts of espionage. He was sentenced to 15 life sentences. He was to do his time in like the worst place on earth, ADX Florence in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. That's where Chapo Guzman is being held. Like it is the worst
Wow.
place in the
23
world.
hours a day is a lot.
It's crazy. There's a picture of him at ADX, and like he just looks like he's been crying like all day long. Like
Hmm.
it looks really bad. And again, that was 5 weeks before he was supposed to retire. This is
Wow.
kind of topical. So this guy actually died like almost 2 months ago today. So he
I saw that he
died.
died on my birthday.
Yeah. Oh, June 5th. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he died on June 5th, and it's August 6th today. So yeah, 2 months ago. So kind of
Wow.
topical. A huge scumbag. A lot of people died because of what he did, and there was a. You go down so many rabbit holes when you research stuff like this. Like that first guy that he ratted on, the general that ended up getting shot in the back of the head.
Hmm.
That guy, the information he passed on, like was hugely consequential. Like part of it
Yeah.
had to do with the fact that like how Russia and Chinese relations were like not good. Like they weren't doing good with each other.
Hmm.
And that was like a big reason why Nixon thought it was a good idea to open up relations with China and to kind of like bring down
Hmm.
that wall, which like now you look at the downstream impact of that and how impactful China is, like the US economy, the global economy, like all
Hmm.
of it, it's all interwoven and interconnected. And so again, like it's partially fun and sexy and interesting and all that, but the other part is like it's like world consequences are involved, which is
Totally.
crazy.
Like so many people get hurt. It's crazy.
That Aldrich Ames guy, they suspect 25 people were killed directly because of the information he gave,
Wow.
just so he could drive a Jag. Like it's
It's terrible.
insane.
Just to make it wear his dumb suit. $6,000 suit. Come on. Oh my
Um,
God, it's so annoying.
So, anyways, that's my story. I am gonna continue watching Spycraft, and there's a movie about this story.
Yeah.
It's called Breach. Ryan Felipe plays the FBI agent who was his assistant who stole the Palm Pilot, so it should be pretty good.
Ooh,
But
it
Breach
does
is
sound fun.
yeah, Breach is now on my list of movies that I need to watch and make
Ooh,
popcorn.
but FBI upstart Eric O'Neill enters into a power game with his boss, Robert Hanssen. Oh, I totally want to watch that.
Yeah, that
That's
guy's kind of
fun.
like that guy Eric O'Neill turned out to be like a pretty interesting character in his own right. Like he ended up. I mean, stuff like this makes you a celebrity.
Yeah, it's fun. Super
So
fun. Laura Linney's in it. I love her. Cool.
and the guy who plays
I want to
Hanson in
watch
that
it.
movie, he's the dad who in American Beauty. I can't
Yeah,
remember
Chris
his name.
Cooper.
Yes, like he looks like the ideal guy to play Hanson himself.
Yeah.
There's a whole sidetrack
Yeah.
here that I didn't go into. This guy was an Opus Dei member. Like, remember that? Remember
Who?
Opus Dei?
Robert Hanssen? Oh
Yeah,
my God, what a
yeah.
tool.
He would do like gross things. Like he would record him and his wife having sex and like give it to his buddy like without her knowing about it.
Ew.
He had like a prostitute he would like fly around and visit with. Like he was like he was just gross. I don't know.
Yeah, I
He was a
know.
bad
Nothing
he was a
good.
bad person. He was just a bad person. That's all it
Yeah.
was.
He seems like a bad guy. Well, wow.
So, but that's
Huh.
my uplifting story of the day.
Well, wow. Trust no one is really the answer there, especially for the FBI. Oh my God. Imagine if you like had a best friend. Your best friend's not really your best friend.
Trust no one, not your family,
Trust
not your
no
friends, spouses, anyone.
one.
They're all
No,
out to get you.
100%. 100%. Well, cool. Thank you for sharing. That was awesome. It sounds like there's a lot more. I'll watch that Spycraft show. That sounds really fun.
It is fun. And
Yeah.
now we have reached the point of our podcast where, through the magic of editing, we are going to stop talking and start anew.
But I have one more thing just to mention at the end of this one. We joined TikTok this week, which is hilarious. Like we have 4 followers, but whatever, because I can put like I can make cute little collages of our videos. So those are going up right now. And I'm also adding our transcripts to our podcast. They're not perfect. They're like the automated ones. But if you do want one that is perfecter, like a little bit better, let us know and I can prioritize making them better. But right now there's just decent transcripts available.
Is there any listener mail?
No.
Damn it. People write to us. Come on, it's fun to get those emails. Just write and say, I listened today or some I don't know, whatever.
Yay. Well, tell your friends, please. Give us stars if you like it, and we're looking to grow. So please let people know. We appreciate you.
So I'm gonna go ahead and
Oh,
cut it off here.
thanks.